There. That should have fixed it. Alright. Anyway. Hopefully everything is going quite well for everyone. And I think I might have solved the scuff. So, hopefully this can get checked out. And of course I have plenty to talk about today. Because of course I've been looking things over and the world is, of course, it's always craziness. You know, it's about how it goes. So, here we are. Just double check our settings. And we are good to go. Much better. Definitely fixed. So, on with the show and definitely just get with the chat. And anybody who wishes to pipe up can definitely speak in and we can definitely talk about these things. So, anyway, starting off this morning, I actually ran into this lovely little number here. Okay. Of course, those of us who are gamers, we see this and we just kind of go, oh my god, really? Microsoft, of course, is looking to raise their prices by $80 to $100, and of course, we can always complain about that being part of the tariffs and all that kind of garbage, but the big key part that I wouldn't complain so much about material prices and everything like that, because of course I know with the material, it's gonna go up in price. This is just the way it is. I mean, 80 to 100, we can pretty well expect that for material, for the lithium, for everything else that, you know, we expect. Because, of course, we're not mining our own lithium in the United States. That's all held over in China. So, of course, a lot of the other things that are going on, we have to actually have that. However, the big bite on all of this is we'll make $80 games. Okay. That's where, me personally, I have my own little problem with this. Now, $80 games. Didn't we recently have a problem in the last year where I think it was like Ubisoft or something ended up saying that they wanted to bump things up to $70, $80 because it's the new era of quadruple A games, and they created one of the biggest flops on the market that we've ever seen. And of all things, they were competing with another, I mean, it was in the same genre as pirate ships. I mean, I don't play these games, but there was a freemium game that was out there that had way better graphics, way better play, way better control. So, of course, it's just kind of like, what? And you're going to try to charge us $80 for it? No. So, of course, as we see here, hardware sales continue to decline. Well, of course, the hardware sales for consoles have always been declining because a lot of people, roundabouts, 2020 and moving forward, everybody started moving towards what everybody could call PC Master Race because, well, PCs hold up longer, and we all know that. A lot of people just tend to prefer consoles, but it's neither here nor there. There are some games I would prefer on console and some that I wouldn't, Now, of course, Series S's, personal Gen X opinion, never buy a Series S. That's the digital copy. Because when it comes down to things, it leans into the you will own nothing and be happy. Because if you actually look in previous history about different TV shows and different digital media, all of a sudden they can revoke your rights to actually getting your shows, your games, whatever. And they can just say, nope, we don't care that you paid for it. We're deleting it from the servers. You can't have it. So right here, these prices is just a waste of money. Whereas if you get the Series X, that actually includes the hardware capability of being able to play the discs and the physical media, which means long after the servers are turned off, so long as you actually have your installs, you have your stuff saved on a drive, and you have the physical copy, you're going to be able to play it in perpetuity so long as you keep care of the disk, and it doesn't die to disk rot. So trust me, got a couple of games that actually died to disk rot. It's sad. I don't exactly enjoy having to pitch those in the trash. They kind of cried. One of which was one of my copies of Final Fantasy VII from the original PlayStation 1. That sucked. But anyway, of course, Microsoft is issuing a statement, and of course, inflation and tariffs and blah, blah, blah. We understand that these changes are challenging, and they were made with careful consideration given the market conditions and the rising cost of development. Rising cost of development. Wow. You're really going to go there. Rising cost of development. Last time I checked, you guys weren't trying to increase your labor cost. You weren't trying to pay more. You were laying off and paying less. So that doesn't compute to me. And on top of that, with regards to the rising cost, where's the rising cost coming from? Is it due to initiatives that you don't wish to actually talk about and you wish to sweep under the rug? You know, that kind of thing. Certain things that, I don't know, an old buddy that tried to get canceled over the internet known as Cabrutus, you know, he started calling these things out, but, you know, now all of a sudden the new second era for Trump, everybody's trying to actually sweep it under the rug and hide it while increasing their costs. Yeah, I just don't get it. So, of course, they talk about how some first-party games will be priced into the holiday season. Yep, right here, boys and girls, $80. Yep. And, of course, that goes in line. Of course, Microsoft has the schnoots to bring this forward because, of course, they see the price raised from Mario Kart World on launch at $80. So all of a sudden they see Mario Kart World go out at $80. Then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, green light. Let's go. Let's effing go. So yeah. As for the huge price increases for the hardware, it's certain this has to do with the recent tariffs. Yep. Of course. Going after the whole China bugaboo right there. Yep. Gotta always blame China when, of course, most of the competition is out of Japan. Nice. Way to go. Of course, the tariffs on China were always going to come with price increases on many products. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of the consoles are not made in China. A lot of the other, parts and pieces are made in China, which of course cascade the cost. But it's where Taiwan, they have their own thing that they're trying to actually continue forward. They're trying to work out their deals and everybody else. So it is what it is. So this is basically gaming industry going into next year. If you actually want to buy an Xbox or a console of any kind, do it now. Don't wait, because the prices are only going to go up. You may as well get it while you can, because we're going to take a huge L come Christmas season. It sucks. But anyway, moving on to the next gaming piece of news. Court denies Bungie's attempt to dismiss Disney 2 Red War lawsuit, refuses to consider YouTube videos and wiki pages as proof. Okay. Let's look at this a little bit heavier here. I'm not a lawyer, so no legal advice here, but of course I'd love to actually hear some other people from the LawTube space with regards to this thing. Now, in regards to all of this, I'm pretty sure there's probably a gaming lawyer out there that could definitely deep dive into this stuff and see exactly where this goes. Anyway, the courts rejected Bungie's attempt to dismiss the Disney 2 Red War lawsuit, saying YouTube videos and fan-made wiki pages aren't enough to evaluate copyright claims. Okay, now from what I gather right here, there's a lawsuit with regards to the original Destiny 2 Red War campaign. And it also looks like they're also ruling they must continue facing the copyright lawsuit that claims that they copied parts of Red War and Curse of Osiris from an unpublished sci-fi work. Okay. This just alludes to me as a regular person kind of understanding some of this junk. They're looking at somebody who hadn't published their script, whatever. They had it in a desk drawer or whatnot, and then all of a sudden it comes out. So they decide they're going to throw in a lawsuit to try to sue Bungie to, get the cha-ching, if you know what I'm saying. So, filed by writer Matthew Kelsey Martineau. Okay, since late 24. Now, the one thing is, late 24. Now, if we actually think about that with time scale, prior to this, Bungie had decided that they were going to partition their servers, they were going to change everything around, and they were removing Red War, Curse of Osiris, and the next expansion after that one. That one had to do with Mars. Of course, somebody could correct me, if possible, in the comments or anything. So, with regards to the legal here, it's more complicated. Yeah, of course it's complicated, because they removed the portions of the game that had complete access, and it was vaulted. Yeah. Because, content now being inaccessible due to vaulting. Because it's kind of like the Disney Vault. There's the Bungie Vault. They vaulted the content, and now this content will probably never see the light of day from Bungie's standpoint due to this lawsuit. So, the question remains, is this somebody with a frivolous lawsuit that had their own quote-unquote unpublished work that came forward, or did somebody do something? Let's see. Writing under the pen name of Gasper Cole alleges that Bungie lifted plot elements, characters, and themes from his work posted on WordPress years before. Okay, so he's claiming he published it to WordPress on some public area, and of course one of the writers for Destiny 2 lifted it. Okay, yeah, the problem is it's down to the courts. You have to prove your points, and unfortunately, this has to push its way to, if I'm paying attention to all of the law tubers I try to follow, is he's fighting to get himself to discovery, I think. I mean, we haven't seen anything because it's not passing the motion to dismiss, so Bungie basically starts off with a motion to dismiss, if I remember correctly, and then if all of a sudden it can get through motions of dismissal and everything else, if all of a sudden Martineau is able to get his stuff forward to discovery, then he might be able to gain access to the rest of the documentation to prove his points. Of course, goal being getting to discovery is like 3/4 of the battle, and most times lawsuits don't actually survive long enough because everything drags their heels. I mean, the best example of a drag out would be watch for the Gina Carano thing with Disney. They drug their heels and drug their heels and drug their heels because they wanted to actually stretch it out so that they could run people out of money, so that eventually they have to resign their lawsuit in disgrace because they can't keep going, so that they can keep it from getting to discovery. But as what happened with the Carano case, she managed to make it to discovery, but it's not over yet. Everything is moving forward there. And that's courtesy of other financial backers. Not everybody can get that extra backer, Sometimes people have to do things like other streamers that are out there and different YouTubers. So, of course, responded with a motion to dismiss, calling allegations vague and unsubstantiated to support the case. Bungie submitted hours of YouTube footage and screenshots from fan-made wiki that it was showing that it was nothing like his work. The court granted Martineau a chance to amend the complaint. Bungie tried again, filing another dismissal. Decision issued today. Judge denied Bungie's motion to dismiss, refused to consider several exhibits. Yeah, basically the judge is saying, okay, your motion to dismiss has no merit because this isn't evidence. Judges can get fickle like that. Yeah. They were trying to get it thrown out in an early stage. Motion to dismiss included links to the fan-recorded YouTube videos and Destinypedia. So, yeah, considering the data can't be accessed anymore, it means there's no direct access. So the judge isn't on board with that, so Judge Susie Morgan made it clear that just because it's mentioned in the lawsuit doesn't mean the court can rely on third-party videos or unofficial wikis. Okay, so my standard regular person brain, having brain rot from law tubers, my assumption here is the judge is treating the third-party videos and unofficial wikis as hearsay. I mean, other law tubers can correct me if I'm wrong, but, I mean, am I right? That's what I'm thinking. Because while plaintiff does reference Destiny 2 in complaint, he does not reference the videos. Okay, so basically it's Bungie is putting forward an answer to the question that the plaintiff is giving that it's not lining up. So the judge is declaring it as hearsay and is moving forward and dismissing their dismissal. At least, am I getting that right? Maybe. As a result, Bungie cannot feasibly provide the court with the original game as it existed in 2017. In any operable or reviewable form, nor will Bungie be able to produce the accused campaigns in operable or reviewable form. Basically, in essence, the judge is pushing forward saying, you need to unvault those pieces of content before we can move forward. And that comes down to a business decision. Because honestly, business-wise, I don't think they're able to do that with how things are set up for their servers right now, because the configuration is going to be completely difficult. Now, Judge emphasized the campaigns are no longer available. Bungie admitted there's no way to play or review them in the original form, and because of that, the court couldn't do the usual side-by-side comparison to determine if there's actual copyright infringement. Yeah, fan-made videos just aren't good enough. So basically the judge is pushing for horse's mouth, not third hand. So it goes into that hearsay argument, I think. I mean, not a lawyer here. But, yeah, the court will not consider the exhibits attached to defendant's motion to dismiss and will not convert motion to dismiss to a motion of such summary judgment. Okay. There has not been sufficient time for discovery, and attachments are admittedly of third-party origination. Authenticity is not established. Yep. In more words, this is definitely reading to me as hearsay. So, of course, I will let anybody who enters the chat correct me if I'm wrong. So, now, Judge Morgan also pointed out how complicated this case is compared to past copyright claims. Bungie cited previous rulings where court dismissed claims after comparing books or movies. Court refused to treat Bungie's motion as one for summary judgment, confirmed that the case should move forward. Okay, so this is a win for Martin now. He gets to move forward further with discovery so that he can actually see if they can't release to him the raw data that they cannot upload, which means they probably have it on a drive somewhere, but it's not hooked up. So it's not able to actually be accessed. But I'm pretty sure a programmer could parse it. So, big deal. And of course, right here is the full actual document. I'm not a lawyer, not going to go through that, because that would be something for a law tuber to go through. I really admit that. Anyway, moving forward. Now, TikTok fined $600 million after the illegal transfer of EU personal data to China. Oh, lovely. So, of course, they were hit with a massive fine here. Nice. So, yeah. And, of course, TikTok bidder calls the $600 million EU fine the latest example in avalanche of evidence social media companies control too much user data. So basically, one of the principal bidders for TikTok right here is in a $600 million EU fine on the platform, is they basically discovered that billionaire Frank Court, who's bidding to actually make the purchase for TikTok here, that EU data of personal data has actually changed hands and made its way to China. So that's why the fine happened. This does not bode very, very well. This is not good. So, of course, this just pushes things a little bit forward further. I mean, when you look down to it, the amount of information that TikTok will actually harvest, it's the same with a lot of other social media out there. It's just TikTok is a little bit more invasive, according to some people. And on top of that, a lot of people do not trust Chinese companies because of the way Chinese business law actually works. I mean, there are some things that I'm not going to quote to, but you can feel free to look it up yourself on some of the things that Chinese companies or anybody who currently is housed in China has to deal with. So, yeah. Because here's one other thing that I also ran into, looking over world news. Over in Finland, Friday's papers, TikTok's €1 billion data center in Finland, messy Mayday and cold snap returning. Okay, so, 1 second. I'm having a fun time, aren't I? Could have swore I already had that set up. Here we go. Okay. Helsingin Sanomat reports that social media platform TikTok, owned by Chinese company ByteDance, has confirmed plans to build a major data center in Finland. Now, TikTok spokesperson tells HS that investment in the new facility forms part of a broader project to improve cybersecurity across Europe. We are investing €1 billion in a new data center in Finland as part of the Clover project, an initiative to enhance security across Europe. Of course, that's spokesperson in an email. Of course, Reuters is the first to report on it. Company declined to comment on the project's timeline, location, or scope. And it remains unclear if TikTok has made a final investment decision. Okay, that's a good question. Are they really going to put forward the money, or is this just going to be a shell investment that all of a sudden, poof, out of nowhere? Kind of like a, how do I say it? Nigerian airport. Yeah. Look that one up. That goes down a banker rabbit hole of fraud, but, neither here nor there. Now, however, reports that TikTok plans to invest €12 billion in data centers and data privacy improvements across Europe over the next decade as part of the Clover project. Centers will store European user data with oversight from EU authorities to address concerns about Chinese government access. Now, that is a bigger question, Now, the Chinese government access thing, that's the big bugaboo that everybody's concerned about. Is the Chinese government going to have access to these data stores? We don't know. And that is what it is. TikTok opened its first European data center in Ireland, with another beginning operations in Norway. The company also has data centers in the US and Asia. It just writes that the Finland data center announcement came as a surprise to local stakeholders. Antti Aumo of Invest in Finland said the organization was not involved in TikTok's plans, while Veljo Terho, chair of the Finnish Data Center Association, also expressed surprise at the announcement. So yeah, they're looking at some freaky moments there. And definitely like, comment, and subscribe if you wish. Now, on to French news. French prosecutors have charged 21 suspects over coordinated prison attacks. Okay, prosecutors said on Saturday that 21 suspects, including 2 teenagers, have been charged over the coordinated attacks that targeted several jails and other facilities across France. Investigators believe the attacks were carried out by drug traffickers. Interesting. We're going to blame drug trafficking. Prosecutors said on Saturday that 21 suspects in a series of coordinated attacks on French prisons had been charged, including 2 teenagers. Investigators believe the attacks were carried out by drug traffickers, with at least one suspect thought to have ties to a notorious cartel. Well, you're going to be intentionally vague due to reporting laws in your own country, but we don't know which cartel you're talking about. There's too many of them. Attackers in April struck at several jails and other facilities across France, torching cars, spraying the entrance of one prison with automatic gunfire, and leaving mysterious inscriptions. I guess somebody decided tagging would be a great idea. Get out the spray cans and try to mark things up. That'll be traceable. Total of 30 people, including 4 minors, were arrested this week in police raids across France. 7 of them were released without charge. Paris prosecutor Laure Becquet told reporters Saturday that 19 of the suspects were held in pretrial custody, while 2 adolescents had been placed in detention facility for minors. They are accused of instigating the operations, acting as go-betweens, recruiting accomplices, or carrying out the attacks. The suspects, aged between 15 and 37, included 2 women, had targeted prison staff with extreme and uninhibited and premeditated violence. In both their professional and private lives, she said. Okay. Basically targeting people like most cartels probably do. Some of the suspects were believed to belong to organized crime, while others were completely unknown. The assaults have embarrassed the right-leaning government, whose tough-talking ministers of justice, Harold Darmanin and Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau, have vowed to intensify the fight against narcotics and drug-related crime. President Macron has promised the attackers would be found, tried, and punished. Well, good luck, Macron. Good luck. These people like to run to ground. French anti-terror prosecutors were initially put in charge of the case due to coordinated nature of the attacks, but the Office for the Fight Against Organized Crime, UNALCO, has since taken over. More than 300 investigators have been involved. Several of the arrests took place inside prisons, with suspected leaders of the attacks believed to have directed them from inside. So yeah, inside the prison. The call is coming from inside the house. Yeah, good luck. you're not going to find very many people willing to talk when it's coming from inside the house. Attackers left the inscription DDPF, rights for French prisoners, at nearly all the crime scenes. Oh boy. MO of the assaults bore the hallmarks of OC, with perpetrators recruited online and promised significant remuneration in exchange for carrying out attacks. On Tuesday, lawmakers approved a major new bill to combat drug-related crime, with some of France's most dangerous drug traffickers facing being locked up in high-security units in prison in the coming months. So, they're going to keep trying. They're going to keep looking. Eventually, they might actually find these people, but they got a lot of legwork put up for them. I mean, it is what it is. Considering the number of people that are already there, it's going to get kind of difficult. It's always a hard job for law enforcement. But of course, we definitely got to talk about this one. World press freedom plummets with alarming deterioration in U.S. under Trump. Okay. Now, the World Press Freedom Index, published by Paris-based rights media group Reporters Without Borders. Yeah, unprecedented low. Well, there's a bit of a problem with this, and of course I'll get to that. Media rights group warned Friday about an alarming deterioration, as well as unprecedented difficulties for independent journalists. Independent journalists. The problem with what they mean as independent journalists are people that are listed with Reuters and CNN and that kind of stuff, because what they're meaning independent journalists are the people that are flying under the banner of a specific company, but they are contracted. So the independent journalist is contracted with whatever company that is, and that's where the problem lies, because right now the current administration in the U.S. has a big bone to pick with all the other standard media from around the world, as can be seen with some of the other things that have been going on, because it seems that podcasters and other different media sites are getting first dibs at the pick, and it's basically getting seen. I mean, I've seen photos for myself from the smaller journalists that are coming out of different meetings, seeing the other mainstream reporters and those contractors behind the fence, kind of held out. And, you know, there's, of course, words exchanged, that kind of thing. And it could all be summed up with jealousy and everything else. So it's just an upheaval all across the board. So, I mean, this is just kind of one of those pieces that I have to take with a grain of salt, because they're taking with the first time in history of the index, conditions for practicing journalism are poor in half the world's countries. Well, I'd have to say the reason half of the world's countries and everything is poor is because they actually have gotten used to seeing all of those other companies having their own political or bent. Because honestly, gone are the days of the free press. Because whenever there is a journalist or whatever that decides that I'm going to be completely unbiased, they try to actually put out what they're going to say, and it gets quashed and falls on the cutting room floor. And it never makes it to air, because they decided they're going to be unbiased. And the people that are paying the paychecks don't want to hear that. They want you to follow that company's party line, which to me is not a free press. So you kind of have to examine who's doing the speaking here. Yeah, although spending on advertising was still rising, a growing share is captured by online giants Meta, Google, Amazon, rather than media companies. Now, this just smells of envy, because, you know, everybody else in the modern era is starting to turn to social media rather than look at the morning or evening news, which kind of sad, because I remember growing up in an era where we didn't have social media. We couldn't just open our phones and find out what was going on in the world. We now have websites, print media, everywhere else. There's so many different avenues, and streaming is one of them. Hello, hi. I can wave my hand in the air and go, yep, hi. When journalists are impoverished, they no longer have the means to resist the enemies of the press, those who champion disinformation and propaganda. Now, this is where I have to ask you, whose disinformation and whose propaganda are we talking about? Are we talking about a specific company's bottom line that they're trying to protect? Is it, the Rupert Murdochs of the world that wish to actually go a certain direction and spin a certain narrative? Or are we talking the Harvey Weinsteins of the world that want to control the way things actually go? I mean, there's a lot of dirty people that are at the top, and they have their own agendas with regards to things, and they like to actually move things in a direction, and they hope that a lot of other people will blindly listen to whatever they're putting out there. I mean, sometimes you just got to think for yourself some days. And this includes looking at even this right here. So, authoritarian shift. Okay. Authoritarianism, we've got to call out that bugaboo, of course, because, made conditions worse by axing U.S. financial support for state-backed broadcasters. Here's the call out to USAID. Now, you can have your own opinions about USAID with regards to what it was actually funding. I mean, there might have been a few programs inside of that may have been a good thing. I don't have the time or the wherewithal to go line item by line item through that big piece, because it's like any government agency. It's overwhelming for how big it is. So, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and Voice of America. Okay, sure. They got cut because funding got cut. So all of a sudden, you're going to blame it as authoritarian when all of a sudden the extra funding that was getting put out is no longer available, when all of a sudden the political winds have changed, and suddenly the media direction you were actually pushing is no longer wanted by the current administration. And this keeps flipping back and forth. So as an American, I see this, and it just pushes it forward, swaying in a different direction. Like, in the next 3 years, should all of a sudden the pendulum swing back over to the Democrats or whoever, and it starts going further to the left, I mean, the pendulum will always swing. It is what it is. Trump's time has come again. It will go away. And honestly, if it doesn't go away, then there's going to be a few other problems. Because, the one thing most people in the world seem to think, I mean, this is just the weird one, is that all of a sudden everything will be complacent. No, I'm sorry. There is previous precedent with regards to the presidential elections and everything. And due to the amendments, an American president is only allowed to have 2 terms. Hey, nice to see ya. Glad you're here. I'm doing pretty good here, just kind of going over things from kind of a middle view. So, what I'm basically saying here is, from all of this, is with regards to the media and the press, is things are just shifting. Oh yeah, plenty of tabs, always. Because of course, when we've got to talk about so many different things tonight. So, this comes down to what I was espousing upon and going over is a lot of people that I've run into in the media actually say that Trump is gearing for a third term, and I roll my eyes every time I hear it. Because honestly, if that gets allowed, then all of a sudden we may as well tear up the Constitution, because the previous amendments already block that. And it's not going to get allowed. Otherwise, there's going to be other bigger problems coming for America down the road. But because, of course, there's... Oh, I get that. I need to update my system specs on my page. I upgraded my RAM as well just recently. So this is... All I gotta say is I have my own LEDs on my box. It actually tells me how hot I'm running, and I'm barely even pegging 50% here right now with everything. Complete with multi-streaming. I'm also on YouTube, so thank you for that. But that's kind of the nice thing. So with moving forward, I'm expecting in about 3 years that we will actually face another election. But if they put Trump on the ticket, I'll be honest, I'll put forward, I'm middle. I'm independent. I don't care. I used to be a Democrat. I'm independent now, but I'm not fully in the Republican camp. Never have been. I mean, I have views that swing both sides. So what I truly am is just an American. And it's where if all of a sudden they put Trump on the ticket for a third term, this is going to cause me to quirk my eyebrow and go, what are we doing here? Because this constitutionally should not be possible. Since roundabouts the 1940s, they changed it over. They changed it over entirely in the 1940s because minor history thing. I know a lot of people out in Europe and everywhere else don't, know too much of our history in depth, but I was always a World War II buff. The reason that America has a 2-term limit on their presidents is because of Franklin Delano Roosevelt of World War II. He died in office after 4 terms. All of Congress decided, never again with that. We will limit it to 2 on the presidency, and there are a few other caveats, whatever, that have to deal with if a president is declared infirm or whatever, and the vice president takes over and then moves in. But just to sum it up, the max amount of time anybody can be president in the United States is upwards of 10 years, because they can get 4 plus 4 plus 2. That's it. Because they can spend about half a term and then they still can do 2 other terms, because they take over for the first president, and then they can, if it's 2 years or under, they get to run twice. If they take over ahead of that 2 years, then it's declared as if they had a full first term. And then they can only run 1 more time. I mean, we're going to get through this. It's sad, but we're going to get through this. It's always going to change. This is with politics. Everything moves forward. We just have to get through it and just stay true to who we are as people. And I'll be honest, I'm a Christian. Love your neighbor, but try to do everything within the legal standpoint. It is what it is. Yeah, of course, looking over this article, it's basically France News trying to allege and run a bit of a smear piece towards saying, hey, free journalism is dying. Well, not exactly. It's just because of all of the different slander that ended up happening with the current administration. Trump decided that he's just going to hand out the press passes in a different direction. And now mainstream media is having its own coping and seething day, if we can just put it that way. So all of these people will cope and seethe for at least maybe 3 years, and then next thing you know, they'll be back in after 3 years. They just have to wait it out. But it's going to sell copy and ad revenue, so of course they're going to live this up. It is what it is, my bro. So, moving on to what's going on in Finland. I just cover world news because most everybody loves to cover American stuff, and I'm taking this from a viewpoint as an American looking at things outside, because we have a severe news gap looking at the world. So I spent time back in 2001. I was in Finland. I've lived in the EU before, but this one caught my eye. Majority of lawmakers in Finland responded to a survey to oppose the sale of stronger wines and beers in grocery stores. Now, this is with regards to the alcohol laws in Finland, because of course they have a government-owned monopoly known as Alko. Now, apparently half of 100 MPs responded to the survey, which asked whether the sale of wines with alcohol content up to 15% should be allowed. Now, this comes down to money questions. 2/3 of them said they didn't want to see stronger stuff. And I mean, the 5 declined to take a stance. So supporters of this are, of course, the businesses, the grocery stores and everything, saying, hey, this will boost competition and make everyday life easier. Yeah, and better for your pocketbook, bro. Because that means that, because when we have to think about this one, I mean, back in 01 when I was over there, it blew my mind that there was actually a monopoly that was allowed. So the one thing to think about for this is, if the grocery stores are able to actually do it, that means they can collect the profits on all the alcohol sales versus the government-owned monopoly of Alko, where the higher percentage beverages where you can get your spirits and everything like that, those are all held by government control. There's not really too much with regards to taxes and duties, but all the profits are funded towards the government, which I think they actually put a good percentage of their Alco funds into their healthcare. So, I mean, it's one way to solve the problem. I mean, I came back from over in Europe seeing this kind of stuff and saying, you know, free market isn't such a bad thing with regards to some things, but honestly, I wouldn't have, batted an eye if they had decided to do that with specific industries to fund for, healthcare and that kind of stuff. But then again, there's a lot of other things that I can talk about with regards to that, because having government-controlled healthcare, that has its own different details and bugaboos that I can definitely discuss, because like everything, it's all contrasted. There are many different things that go on. I mean, you have to ask yourselves different questions with regards to, is it morally okay to say, hey, under the government's healthcare responsibilities, that it's okay for the taxpayer to pay for somebody to end their game completely, forever? I mean, is that something that the taxpayers should be willing to pay for? And I mean, would you be willing as a taxpayer to fund that? I mean, I have my own opinion on that, but I mean, you put it up to everybody else, you gotta ask that question. It's like, okay. And just like any other healthcare outcome, people who have cancer or anything like that, you have to ask, okay, at what point does the government cut off the funds to fund somebody's treatment? It's dicey, It's between here and there. So, of course, strong support among NCP lawmakers. So, National Coalition Party, they supported the sale, but of course, it's not going through right now. Last year they passed the law to allow sales of up to 8% in grocery stores and everywhere. So that probably was a little bit better, but it cut into their margins at Alco, because I remember being there and you could only buy alcohol in the Alco. So, yeah. So, of course, if you're on YouTube, definitely like, comment, and subscribe if you wish. Now, clashes at a fascist rally in Tampere. Another thing going on over in Finland as of 2 days ago. They detained several protesters at a rally by the Black and Blue movement. Okay, so participants in a procession organized by the openly racist and fascist Blue and Black movement have clashed with counter-protesters at Jugentori Square in Tampere. Now, an Uli reporter at the scene said that protesters threw blue and black eggs and smoke flares. Participants in the fascist march threw at least one of the smoke flares back at the counter-protesters. Okay, this would be the video here, I think. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And of course, we always have to remember the Finns are... They tend to have no business taken, because they're just like, yep, we're going to do this. It's done. I mean... Okay, other objects dangerous due to the large crowds, because of course we can actually see the different crowds. This looks like it was over by the city center. Yeah, Central Square. And of course it was May Day, so of course they were all celebrating. And of course, perfect time to actually have a protest. I mean, it's never effective to have a protest if you don't have people, you know? I mean, if you have 5 people show up to protest and there's no one there to see you, well, it is what it is, I guess. I mean, you'll make news for a moment if somebody covers you. I mean, cool. They estimated 50 to 100 people took part, approximately the same number of counter-protesters. It collected the required number of supporter cards to be re-registered as a political party. Okay, that's oof, a political party. Now, I remember one Finn explaining to me that Finland had 13 separate primary parties? So, that was a little nuts to me, because as an American, you actually see we only have 2 parties, and the 2-party system really sucks. But then looking out at the rest of the world and seeing how things handle in parliamentary proceedings and different things out there, all of a sudden I end up saying, okay, it gets a little bit more tricky trying to run a government once there are more parties out there. Because if I remember correctly, seeing things with regards to Germany, which of course I've got one article that comes up about Germany here, a couple of tabs down the road here. Germany and their primary parties that they have to have a coalition to be able to actually get a prime minister, which, can be tricky if no one agrees. Because if nobody has a majority, then nobody's going to get anything in, and then next thing you know, it's deadlocked, and then it's just a mess. So, I get it. I get it. Everybody hates politics. Incompatible with constitutional and human rights and democratic principles. Okay. Whenever you're starting to say that somebody is incompatible with things, that's just the American in me saying, okay, free speech is a thing. Freedom from consequences is not. You're allowed to spout off at the mouth to say stupid crap, and I'll defend your right to say stupid things, but I am not going to be the one that doesn't hold you accountable for it, because you say something pretty stupid, somebody will hold you to account for it. That is straight up there with hate speech and that kind of stuff, because if you say hateful things, somebody's going to hold you to account. I mean, And there's the throwing of the flare. Awesome. So, of course, and this is as of the 2nd, the day after, they released all of the individuals detained. Okay, nice. They arrested all of them on the 1st and released them the following day. Now, apparently they clashed with Antifa, and yeah. So apparently the people that were taken were all basically anybody who was getting unruly on protests. So yeah, ugh. I always hate it when, I mean, I believe it's right for people to peaceably protest. I mean, so long as you're peaceable, you're not fighting, you are there, you are speaking your piece, and you're getting it done. But the moment everything devolves into violence, yeah, that's where it completely changes. And we are done with that. So, okay. Now, of course, my thing's all screwed up. So, let's see here. Pardon me. This one I just had to throw in for some brevity. We gotta laugh a little bit. Car stolen and drunk driving on the Vera. 22-year-old man in Uswij got behind the wheel of an unlocked car with a blood alcohol level of over 0.2 promille. Basically, 0.2 is... Okay, in the United States, if you're over 0.1, you're legally drunk. So, yeah. He was definitely pissed. So, drove straight into the river, able to rescue himself from the car. So, 22-year-old man stole an unlocked car in his Fij in the Vera Meishner district and drove it into the Vera shortly afterwards, presumably under the influence of alcohol and drugs. According to the police, the vehicle was parked next to the grounds of the Svij Canoe Club on Thursday evening. Elderly couple had stopped there. The man was accompanying his wife to a nearby celebration and left the keys in the ignition. Way to go! Thank you. This kind of stuff even happens in the U.S., and it's nuts. Of course, the young man seized the opportunity, got into the car, and drove off. After a few meters, for anybody out there, that's a few freedom units, yards. A yard is equal to a meter. Let's just put it there. His car is landed in the river, able to free himself from the sinking vehicle and reach the shore. Rescue workers took him to the hospital. Okay. Now, one of the things that I actually read a little bit further is they've already got... he was taken to the hospital, and he wound up getting blood drawn. They're doing further testing. They're trying to see if he had anything else in his system. And, of course... that would be the case of... I'm not sure if Germany has anything about that. If all of a sudden they can prove that he had something else in his system at the time, whether or not he'd actually catch another charge. I mean, who knows? But of course, moving on and seeing what's going on in Scotland. They make 4 more arrests as officers fight back in gangland war. Interesting. Total of 24 people have now been arrested as police try to tackle the growing gangland turf war, which started in Edinburgh and spread to Glasgow. So, 4 more people arrested in connection with various offenses as the gangland feud rages on. Total of 24 people have now been arrested as police try to tackle the growing gangland turf war, which started. On Friday, Glasgow officers carried out warrants at 4 properties in the north of the city and Govan and arrested 2 men, aged 20 and 32. The 20-year-old man was arrested and charged in connection with a willful fire raising on Wellington Road, Bishopbriggs, on Tuesday. Okay, so he was dropping trousers and lighting stuff. Cool. We reported that time that the Glasgow factory linked to the Daniel crime family had allegedly been firebombed. Okay. So yeah, he's definitely lighting stuff. Legal papers showed Daniel Crime Associate is listed as the director of a firm at the carpet and flooring unit, which went up in flames. Okay, so are we alleging that there was insurance fraud? I mean, that'd be a thing. I mean, that'd be one way to collect the money. So the 32-year-old man was arrested and charged with a breach of the peace, linked to organized crime. Both men are due to appear. Okay. Next Monday. Nice. So, in addition, 2 arrests took place on Baltimore Road in the early hours of Thursday. Officers carrying out proactive patrols in the area spotted 2 men acting suspiciously. Okay, what do you mean by spotted 2 men acting suspiciously? I mean, back in my day, if you were standing on the street corner, that'd be considered suspicious. A vehicle was then stopped and searched. 2 men were arrested and charged. Okay, it's like, are they standing out on the corner and smoking cigarettes? I mean, really? You know? So, a number of warrants were also executed in the east of the country on Friday, and a number of items, including cash and mobiles, were seized. Inquiries are ongoing. Local officers are continuing to reassure the public with intelligence-led patrols. Okay. Police have nothing to go on. High number of arrests made during this investigation highlights the ongoing work. Okay, yeah, you keep arresting a ton of people, but of course you're not going to give us any details. Hurrah! The number of incidents has decreased since we started this investigation. Want to make it clear, we will not stop until we bring those to justice. The support of the communities is absolutely vital. Okay, yeah, organized crime. Sometimes people just aren't going to talk. So keep trying. Some people are afraid of the organized crime. It's a thing. If you know anything about who's responsible, please talk to us. The only reason people tend to talk is if they have the capability of being able to vanish. So yeah, it is its own thing. The arrests are said to be linked to the turf war. Sources say trouble flared between rival factions after hoods linked to the caged mobster were accused of stealing a stash of cocaine. Oh, and of course we're going to talk about Mr. Big. What a euphemism. Mr. Big. That is not even real. Okay, the mob boss is apparently in Dubai. Oh yeah, where you can buy diamonds on the street. Neat. Launched a new syndicate and began to flood Scotland with imported gear. Okay, so what kind of gear? Anyone who can assist officers with their inquiries is asked to contact the police or Crime Stoppers. Hooray. So yeah. Now, here's the fun one. Apparently, a dad was caught shagging at a retail park, but a woman's charge was dropped in the shock twist. Okay. So yeah. Apparently, caught shagging. A dad was caught romping in public with a woman at a retail park. For those Americans, that's a shopping center or one of those strip malls or something. And dodged jail. Adrian Matthew Reed, 38, shocked shoppers in Belfast last August when he was seen engaging in a sex act with a woman in broad daylight. One stunned passers-by confronted the pair and later phoned police after Reed snapped, "Who do you think you're talking to?" Like, really? You're gonna do that one? So when officers arrived at the scene, both Reed and his partner were arrested. The court later heard the woman, who had also been facing charges, died earlier this year, and her case was formally withdrawn. Oh, of course. So you can't convict a corpse. Okay, there's your twist. Way to go, Crown Court. Oof. Gotta love the clickbaity headline on that one. So, 11 a.m. on August 3rd last year, a male was driving his vehicle into Cityside Retail Park when he observed the behavior, with his wife and a 1-year-old son in the car. Okay, well, at least we can say a 1-year-old son is not going to remember this event. He might not live it down if his old man is going to bring it up a lot, But whatever. The motorist saw he was sitting on a wall with his co-accused performing a sexual act. Okay. Well, we can always assume what could be done going on, but of course, if it was clear enough for somebody to actually see it, then yeah. Never mind the sirens in my background. That's not an actual piece. That's, I live in a city. Sometimes things get bad. Just saying. So, whilst this was being carried out, the other male was laying unconscious on the ground beside Reed. Okay. So, who is this other guy? Was he some other client? I mean, dude. The motorist stopped his vehicle, approached Reed, and told him to stop. Okay, dude. You're gonna... Personally, I would have saw that. I wouldn't have said a word, and I would have said, we're gonna go shopping somewhere else. Because if somebody else didn't notice it, I'd be like, nope, we're driving on. I'm not stopping. I don't need to deal with this. But of course, this is right up there with some of the things in the U.S. with regards to Karens. Stopped his vehicle, approached him, and told him to stop. Members of the public, including children, were present in the car park. And whilst he was initially apologetic, he became aggressive. Okay, he's from Old Park Avenue in North Belfast, appeared at Belfast Crown Court in March. He admitted to committing an act of lewd, obscene, and disgusting nature in public. Outraging public decency. Okay, so what a long-form way of saying he pled guilty. Okay. He claimed to have no memory of the incident due to how much he had drunk. Okay. We don't know his blood alcohol, but we at least know he went boom. Later report from probation officer said he remained adamant he wouldn't knowingly do such a thing. Oh, right, knowingly. Then, okay, this goes down there with some of the common knowledge things in the United States. Over here, if you're on probation, you're not allowed to imbibe anything. The most you're able to use is prescription medications. And some of those, they even tell you have to stop using. Because, there are certain things that are like you're not allowed to have opiate pain medication, or if you have ADHD, you're not allowed to have your mental health drugs because of some of the derivatives that come off of that. So it's like, okay, he wouldn't knowingly do such a thing. Sure, we'll go with that. We'll believe you. Definitely. The court was told Reed has carrying responsibilities for 2 uncles and had suffered a decline in mental health after the death of his sister. Okay, he's pining the death of his sister, but then he goes off with a lady of the night, well, not exactly during the night. Okay, dude. His lawyer also highlighted the traumatic and unsettled childhood and said the dad of one was now drinking less and trying to turn his life around. Drinking less. How about drinking none? Because if you're clearly getting so drunk all the time that you black out, dude, you seriously need to fix your life. So, of course, let's get this thing there. Stupid. Okay. Now, apparently a man 50 years old charged after 2 children approached at a swing park in Cumbernauld. Due to appear at Airdrie Court today. Okay. Now this is creepy. A man's been arrested and charged after 2 children were allegedly approached at a Scots play park. Police were alerted to a man behaving in a concerning manner. What do you mean by a concerning manner? Was he being a Peter with the last name of File by chance? Was he on a list? It's a good question. So, never know. Police were alerted, attended, and a man 50 years old was arrested and charged in connection. So, that leads me to believe that whatever he was doing in this concerning manner, he did something publicly that you really, really don't want to know. I mean, if we were to probably see something on social media, we'd probably hear things that are completely creepy. But as you can see from the shot here, this is probably the park where you can see the swings and everything like that. And the dude was probably out here. Probably walked up to the fence. Yeah. Creepy. Okay. S&P government branded shameful after dumping plan for new misogyny law. What do you mean misogyny law, boys and girls? Okay, Greens have slammed the SNP for kicking the legislation into the long grass. Okay. So, of course, the Greens are upset with the SNP. Government has been branded shameful after dumping plans to introduce a new law aimed at clamping down on misogyny. Okay, you're going to clamp down on misogyny. How about you clamp down on misandry as well? Let's clear the other side of the fence, too. Okay? It's this kind of thing that all of a sudden, does it pass the flip test? I mean, I'm just the way I am with regards to this. Because if it doesn't pass the flip test, then all of those nice, lovely, naughty words that people can call you just don't work. Now, nationalist ministers at Holyrood have long promised to improvise protections for women and girls, but the government has now said that it does not have time to draw up a law following the recent landmark case on gender. Decision has sparked anger among Greens, who have long called for action. In a statement, SNP Minister Jamie Hepburn, "This is a complex area of policy and law, and it would be necessary that any bill which brought misogyny into criminal law contain clear and unambiguous provisions in regard to the circumstances in which they apply." Okay. This would include the implications of the recent Supreme Court judgment. Given the short time left in this parliamentary session, there is insufficient time for a bill to be finalized and introduced in this session. Okay. Speaking towards that, I have to call this into question of, okay, you're looking to actually ban speech with regards to misogyny. So basically making it so that anybody that you can deem as possibly sexist is illegal. Okay. I have a problem with that. I seriously do. As soon as you start criminalizing speech one way or another, the next thing you know, it's a slippery slope down the road of, well, nobody can actually espouse their true feelings about the matter anymore. So it's like, okay, why are we going down this road when you're just going to be making people not able to talk anymore? That's not fair. That doesn't work. SNP ministers have also pushed back plans to introduce legislation to end conversion practices. Cal Cobb Stewart said the Scottish government will continue to work with Westminster on a UK-wide approach. She promised that if the UK Labour government fails to legislate on the issue, an SNP Scottish government will publish its own bill in year one of the next parliamentary session. The Scottish government previously committed to banning conversion therapy, which aims to change or suppress a person's sexual orientation or identity, as part of the power-sharing deal between the Greens and SNP. Okay. Green Chair Maggie Chapman said dropping these bills sends a worrying message about the government's commitment to equalities and a shameful backward step. A lot of people have waited far too long for the protections in these bills, and they will be deeply disappointed that they will not be happening as promised. Okay. As I said before, it comes down to a lot of different personal beliefs. As far as I'm concerned with regards to this matter, I don't really know what people's opinions really are with regards to this. It's all legislation, but you know, as soon as you start banning people's speech, it's a slippery slope that leads down to the moment you make one thing illegal, it leads into the next thing being illegal, which leads into the next thing being illegal. And next thing you know, everybody's walking around the street and they can't drop an F-bomb. I mean, right in there it turns into, if you've seen, like, Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone. He couldn't wipe the toilet. So, of course, what did he do? He ran forward to the thing, dropped a whole bunch of curses right into the machine. It popped out a whole bunch of fines and tickets for him that he's supposed to pay, and he promptly used them as you thought of. So, yeah. There is such a thing as a useless law. Because, yeah, if all of a sudden we get too soft and words hurt, I mean, everybody might need to grow a thicker skin. It's unfortunate, but yeah. I mean, being a male VTuber, gotta get a bit of a thick skin. Because a lot of people are going to complain about you. It is what it is. You don't want to see what I've seen. The Scottish government should not be kicking these bills into the long grass, but that's exactly what is happening. The promises of support and justice tomorrow mean nothing to those being actively harmed today. Okay. Yeah. This is where I have to ask, okay, with regards to the harm, for making a retweet of somebody else's post from halfway around the world, if all of a sudden you shared a meme that you thought was funny, is a bit of a giggle, and you reposted it, but you also kind of transformed it with your own comments at the top, trying to actually, you know, meme on it, make fun of it, whatever, and next thing you know, the police are banging down your door and they haul you away to jail just because the original post was considered illegal and offensive. Even though you were trying to lampoon and make fun of it, you still wound up in jail. How does that fit? That's where I have a problem with this kind of law. Because even if you're trying to provide a counterpoint, you're going to get arrested. It never made any sense to me. So, okay, somebody was silly enough to have a monkey. Why does somebody need a monkey? Monkeys found in Scott's home being kept as a novelty pet in a birdcage. Okay. Rescued from a home in East Lothian after being kept in a cage. A young marmoset named Steve was discovered after concerned neighbors called in animal welfare. They spotted the tiny primate being kept in a large bird cage. Oh, jeez. 4-year-old animal in poor condition, underweight, stressed out from constant handling, and had developed an addiction to sugary marshmallows. Oh, God. You don't feed... Oh, jeez. That's right up there with this... In the United States with the... you go to the carny fairs and the circuses, and there's that monkey that's sitting there smoking cigars. You know? I mean, in the old days, you'd think that was kind of funny or cute or something, but no, dude, that's just wrong. Don't do that. You don't feed them sugary treats. They have a strict diet that they need to follow. Ugh. Sometimes you need to actually bang somebody with a fine on top of all this and go, you were being adult. He was taken to the care of the SSPCA, nursed back to health, before being transferred to a monkey sanctuary. Okay, at least he's going to somebody who will be able to take care of him. So, one of many exotic creatures that are being kept in households. Okay, one kind, born free, don't pet me. Okay. Okay, is this with regards to the badgers? I mean, seriously, is this with regards to the badgers? The animal charities aim to raise awareness of the widespread trade in keeping wild animals as pets and have called on the introduction of a permitted list of animals which can be legally be kept. Oof. Oof, oof, oof. They say a lack of restrictions around how wild animals can be acquired has led to the suffering of many, being kept in unsuitable conditions with breeding practices and owners having a lack of understanding of complex needs. Gilly Mendes Ferreira, Scottish SPCA director. Many people are unaware of the scale of wild animal keeping in Scotland or the challenges it presents for animal welfare. Don't pet me aims to highlight the issue and encourage a more responsible approach to exotic pet ownership. Okay, exotic pets. Which ones are we including here? Are we talking snakes? Are we talking scorpions? Are we talking all those other things that most people, for the life of them, would not even realize what they would be doing? So yeah, it's a growing and worrying trend. Animals like Steve being bought and sold as novelty pets, often on impulse with a little understanding of the complex care they require. But while these creatures might look cute, they are anything but easy to look after. Marmosets are highly intelligent social primates. Okay, yep, of course, a lot of animals need a lot of space. So yeah, you may be well-meaning, but yeah. Charities research revealed hundreds of species are being bought and sold for private keeping. Dude, that happens everywhere. Have you not seen Tiger King? Come on. That was the poop show that kept giving. I mean, I watched that like most other people back in 2020 when all of a sudden, we were all stuck in our houses and we had nothing better to do. And all of a sudden you end up watching it and you're like, okay, after the first one, this is probably peaked. And it just kept going downhill. That's the best review I can give of that show. It just kept going downhill. Like you were waiting for it to hit bottom, but it just never ever hit bottom. At least until he went to prison. That was the bottom. Yeah. 300 different species available to purchase online over a 16-week period, highlighting concerns with ease. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you can get a lot of different things. If you work hard enough at it, you could probably buy a tiger. The research we commissioned painted a deeply worrying picture of how species commonly referred to as exotic pets are thought of and treated. Okay. Tiny boxes, poor diet, social isolation, forced handling, accidents, and deaths. Particularly reptiles. Yep. Now, the issue with some of this is, there's even an issue if you end up getting a betta fish. Betta fish are normally held in these tiny, tiny, tiny little cups. Dude, They need a lot of water. They need a large tank. I had one. You can't just keep it in the tiny thing. I mean, even though it is technically what you'd consider a Chinese mudfish, but for it to be optimally healthy, it needs a lot of water and a lot of care. Launch of the campaign follows incidents of wild animals being illegally released. Yeah, some of those illegally released animals could become invasive, you know. 4 lynx were deliberately abandoned on 2 separate days, roamed free before being humanely caught. However, one of the big cats, which no longer exists in the wild, did not survive. Okay, and they got taken to the zoo. Well, were they all female? Were they spayed and neutered? Good question. Feral pigs. Somebody's trying to actually introduce piggies to the hillsides of England? Well, I don't know how well that'd play out. If they were actual boars, that could get dangerous. Just ask the people of Texas. Scottish government spokesperson said, "We are committed to the highest standards of animal welfare and understand public health and conservation concerns around the keeping of exotic pets. We welcome the work of groups in dealing with welfare problems." Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Of course you're going to continue your steps. It is what it is, I guess. So, yeah. So, now on to our next one. Man indicted for murder of a 37-year-old woman in Tokushima. We are moving on to Japan. So, not to get too dark on a point, but towards the end of our thing here today, definitely dealing with Japan here. Now, Public Prosecutor's Office has indicted a 45-year-old man over the murder of a 37-year-old woman whose body was found partially buried on a riverbank in Naka Town, Tokushima Prefecture on March 21st. According to the indictment, Kenta Fukudome, a former post office worker from Kame City, Kochi Prefecture, is accused of killing Kaori Yamamura, a restaurant employee from Kobe. Oh, lovely. Fukudome is accused of strangling Yamamura to death between 8:10 p.m. and 8:45 p.m. on March 20th on a bridge in the park. Police said he put the body in his car, took it to the riverbank, where he tried to conceal it by burying it. Oh, dude, you don't bury it in a public park, man. You're definitely going to get found, especially considering Japan has some of the largest surveillance networks in the entire world. It's like taking a body to Central Park in New York and trying to bury it. Do you know how many cameras are there? Surveillance camera footage showed Yamamura walking with Fukudome in the parking lot of a convenience store in Tokushima at around 7:25 p.m. on March 20th. It said Fukudome told them he killed her because she wanted to end the relationship. Dude, some people are just terrible. That's just what it is. Some people are just terrible in the world. Because he was having a relationship with a woman, and all of a sudden, because she wants to move on, she's not feeling it. He just crime of passioned it, and then all of a sudden said, "Oh no, I effed up." So suddenly he proceeds to try to hide her by burying her in a park. Yeah, they reviewed all the footage, dude. They saw you coming and going, and next thing you know, okay. Suddenly, you both go in and she never leaves? Yeah, dude. Okay. And of course, some of the comments of the world aren't exactly that great in the world, and I won't be reading those out loud. Anyway, here we go. Moving to our last item of the night. A wind turbine breaks in Akita. A man found dead nearby. Okay. Now this is just sad for renewable energy. It really is. Because if people aren't maintaining their infrastructure with regards to this, I mean, come on, dude. Everybody wants renewables to be right. You know, renewables are supposed to actually be the wave of the future. But if we're not maintaining it, and we can't figure out things, then things aren't going to be good. A blade of a wind turbine on the on the coast of Akita, northeastern Japan, has broken off, and a man found collapsed nearby was confirmed dead Friday, local authorities said. First responders found the 81-year-old resident Takashi Shishido unresponsive with head injuries after receiving an emergency call around 10:15 a.m. reporting the fallen blade. Police are investigating whether his death was related to the incident. Really? The blade was one of 3 on the wind turbine used for power generation and broke off around the base. The site is some 6.5 kilometers southwest of JR Akita Station. A gale advisory was in effect at the time. Okay. Now, they weren't exactly the cleanest in describing all of this, but what I can imagine is this 81-year-old man decided it would be a great idea that he would go on his standard walk. He'd go walking, you know, like any elderly man would do. You know, he's 81, so that's not much of a problem. However, what did he do? Did he walk under a platform ladder? Did he write the number 4 on a check that he was paying? I mean, did he push a button or something that actually had the number 4? I mean, did some Oni run past him that he didn't realize? Because seriously, this is bad luck. Because all of a sudden, he's walking along and the turbine breaks off and the blade just comes down because a very large wind kicked up, blew, bent it off, and hurled it down in the wind, and it hits him in the head. He probably saw it coming, and he probably moved, tried to duck, tried to get out of the way or whatever, and it just bapped him. That sucks. So, yeah, I definitely feel for his family. I really do. So, in regards to everything, definitely if you liked my content, please like, comment, subscribe, and definitely go forward with that. However, with regards to how things go with the night, we are actually facing a bit of a thing because it is Saturday. I am a Christian, and tomorrow is, of course, Sunday, the Sabbath. I will definitely be getting up really early in the morning for church, and I will be enjoying time with family. So, with regards to all of that, I hope to see people tomorrow, as I will be continuing things forward with Obscura, kind of figuring out the scuff with regards to my things here, because yeah, started off tonight, I had scuff with regards to my microphone not actually transmitting. I did not have any audio period, and it was just a mess. So I had to restart my entire gear to start with. So hopefully everybody would be willing to come tomorrow, and hopefully everything should be fine there. Now, in regards to all of that, I will definitely say goodbye, but I will be raiding off into a different channel. Give me a brief second, and let's see who's actually available. Who have we got? Who have we got? see who's still available. Still available. Okay. Okay. Oh boy. Somebody I haven't seen in forever. And she is actually here tonight. Oh, Lulaboo. She is still around. So, remember, anything with regards to politics, please do not talk politics in the other raid stream. Because, if I end up getting noticed that somebody's talking politics in another person's stream, then yeah, I will hit you with a ban. They will probably hit you with a ban. It is what it is. So hopefully everybody can have a good night. You take care, guys. I will see you all tomorrow.
And as a up top, there we go. So that's the best I can do to show you through Discord, because I don't know how to make it any more full screen than